Hey KU fans, welcome back to Hilton Coliseum in Ames, Iowa, site of tonight's 79-53 KU victory. Hey, it takes a minute to do that. Math, number one, because 79 points is a lot in the Big 12 this season, especially against a lot of these defenses. Iowa State didn't play great defense tonight, but
No.
the rest of the conference does guard, and 79 is a lot. But more than that, you just don't get games like this up here between KU and Iowa State. Kansas really put this one away with a monster run toward the end of the first half, the last 7 or 8 minutes, 21-3 run into halftime.
Crazy.
Udoka's making free throws. The defense was turned up. They made three-point shots. I mean, you just don't see games like this in here, and at least not between these two teams. And you even mentioned it early first half, maybe even before the game started. It just didn't have that same feeling here tonight.
I mean,
it's still a great venue, but
Yeah.
it was full. It just didn't have that electricity.
Yeah, usually when you walk in here for a KU game, I mean, first of all, even if you get here early, the student section is packed, and there's a buzz to those two ends of the court. And then, as the arena kind of fills out, there's usually it's just like this energy because the fans are so hyped to be playing KU, and they hate KU, so they want to see the Cyclones beat the Jayhawks, but that just wasn't there at all. I mean, it was still, like you said, almost packed, but it just seemed like this team, this Iowa State team, came in 7-6. Now they're 7-7. So
that's what you're going to get.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's why the energy wasn't there, and I mean, I thought KU's defense helped take the crowd out of the game, because obviously when they're trading baskets for the first 10 minutes, the crowd's into it. Yeah, that got some energy going, because Iowa State was scoring and keeping it competitive. But I mean, what did Bill Self say? The middle 20 minutes of the game, he really liked the way that KU played defensively, and I mean, that was the key. You mentioned that 21-3 run, right? I mean, that's unheard of. Iowa State, you just associate with really effective offense, especially in this building. I mean, that goes back to when Hoiberg was here, but that's also been the case.
As a player?
I meant as a coach, but yeah, I get your point.
Yeah.
But I mean, since Prom took over, they've still had really good offense.
For sure.
This year's team is not good defensively, but just to come into this venue and do what KU did defensively to this Iowa State team, and really limiting Halliburton, like Self mentioned after the game, he's kind of playing with a hurt wrist.
Right.
But the dude 4 days ago had a triple-double and scored 22 points at TCU. So, I mean, he can't be in terrible shape.
It's all relative, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I, of course, came away really impressed with KU's defense. And, of course, that's going to be the takeaway, because that's the best attribute this team has.
There's no doubt. I asked these guys, a couple of guys after the game, was that the most complete effort you've had this season? It felt that way to me. They dominated. They dominated offensively. They dominated defensively. They dominated with their size. And I thought, from the KU fan perspective, those of you watching and listening, you would love this answer, because they all said, no, it wasn't. We made mistakes. There were things we didn't do well. We could still learn from. I mean, that's this team, man. They're so motivated to improve every time out, and they had to grind last weekend to get by West Virginia. They took some confidence from that. They knew there were parts of that game they didn't play great, but they won. And tonight they come up here and it's a kind of a back and forth. What Bill Self say? They played horse.
Yeah, played horse
for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That was the first 10 minutes of this game. It was just like you said, back and forth. The crowd's still into it, and then Kansas just put the hammer down. They turned that thing into a 2-point game, turned into a 20-point lead at halftime, and it was over from there. The second half really was irrelevant. I mean, it was really basically just about, hey, we can go trade baskets. I wrote this in my game story. They needed 8 points, as it turned out, in the second half, because Iowa State only finished with 53. KU had 46 at halftime, so they needed 8 points in the second half to win this game. And that was cool, because it made our jobs easier to write, but it also made it kind of a fun atmosphere to close this thing out. You got to see some highlights, none more than David McCormick's follow dunk, which was right in front of us, right here.
Yeah.
And watching the basket shake after he was done with that, you guys saw it. He went up with one hand and just hammered that thing. And I don't know if it was the dunk that blew my mind, or maybe the fact that he kind of flexed and you know, tough guyed it out there afterwards, or maybe it was the combination of the two, but that was as vicious a dunk as I've seen in a long time. Perfect miss, perfect timing, and he just hammered it. And then Silvio does the you know, similar thing on the very next possession, an alley-oop that he flushes. I asked Silvio after the game about McCormick's dunk, and he said, "Oh, Jesus, that was ridiculous." I mean, he, you know, that was all he could say, and really, those were a couple of highlights. McCormick had others. Christian Brown had another big three-pointer where he crossed people over and hit it. Again, meaningless points, but I think that showed how much fun this team had tonight. And they don't get a ton of these games because the Big 12 is tough. To get one here and to get one on the road is something you should celebrate.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask you, like, how long has it been since we've seen KU's bench able to really enjoy themselves on the road late in a game like that? I mean, in the final minutes, you've got walk-ons out on the floor and the starters enjoying watching that. I mean, to do that on the road, it's just been rare. I mean, maybe I'm just like, my mind is just going back to last year where the road was such a grind and they were getting blown out so many times.
But even with that, this is the perfect way to kind of put that in the past.
Absolutely.
This was, you know, this is the one they talk about as always one of the hardest places to play.
Yep.
KU played well here and rolled by 26 points. That is the biggest win in Hilton Coliseum in the Bill Self era for a Kansas team, and the biggest win for any Kansas team since a 29-point win here back in 2003. More important than any of that, it sets up a monster game on Saturday. Number 3 Kansas against number 4 Baylor. They're both unbeaten at the top of the Big 12. It is early. There's going to be a lot that happens after that, but a top 5 matchup at noon on a Saturday, I'll be there.
Yeah, I think I'll be there too.
Can't wait.
I'm sure there'll be other people we know there. Yeah. Lots of people.
Can't wait. Kansas wins at 79-53 here in Hilton, and they're heading home 2-0 in the Big 12, 12-2 overall. Thanks for checking out tonight's KU Sports Extra. We'll see you guys Saturday at the Fieldhouse.